AfroCon. Tell us about AfroCon. Jade, what is AfroCon?
So AfroCon is a one-day festival of curated conversations, vendors, workshops, and panels, all talking about things that are pertinent to Black and brown nerds. So everything from representation to Afrofuturism, workshops on board game design, workshops on comic creation and character creation and world building and story and writing and the artistic side of it. And we love comics, and where do we in Omaha, Nebraska find space to talk about Black comics? It's a space to just be and talk about all of these things that we like and love, and not everybody is comfortable having those conversations outside of their community. So it's building that community. That's what AfroCon is really about. But
Whoa! It's a body liberation for all takeover, y'all! Oh, me and Dalia are about to get into it, and tonight we have my friend of the show, Jamillah Hinson, joining us to chat. Here we go! Hello! Hello, people of the world and the Come Up universe. It's me, Nick, and this is the Come Up. Oh, we're here. We're live. It's takeover time. Are y'all excited? I'm excited. You better be excited. We've been plugging it for like 2 weeks, maybe a month. Okay, this is going to be great. Listen, before we get going, I just want to, say a verbal shout out to AfroCon. It's coming this weekend. So get your ticket if you haven't yet. $10, $15 for your whole house, $20 for a generous donation. And we love donations. So check it out if you want to now. I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to bring on my amazing co-host for this incredible 2-night event. She is the host of the Body Liberation for All podcast. She is a trained nutritionist. She is a brilliant human. I am a big fan of her, and you are going to love her too. Here she is, Dalia Kinsey.
I love that. That is the best introduction I have ever had.
Really?
I'm
ever?
so hyped to be here.
I'm so
probably, but I have short-term memory issues, but that I can remember. Yes. I'm so excited. You've done a beautiful job of hyping up this event. This is going to be a killer takeover.
It's going to be great. Listen, Come Up audience, as you know, we deal with the glitches here like it doesn't matter. We're just going to talk. You're going to hear us. We sound fantastic. It's going to be amazing.
I'm just trying to freeze in flattering positions. How am I doing?
Just be like this for the whole show. I do want to say, I want to give a shout out to Brandy and her B7 album. Here's a shirt that I have just to prove how gay and fan I am.
She looks like a goddess.
Oh, this album is so good too. Like it's I wore it tonight specifically because we're going to talk about what it means to find space as a Black person. And that's a conversation that I have all the time. And that's, something that Jamillah and I talk about all the time. You and I have talked about it. But Brandy did that. Like, she created her own record label and released her first independent album.
Oh, I didn't even know she had a record label.
After 8 years. It is new. This is her first release. This is not a paid promotion, I will guarantee you. If it was, I'd be very happy. So
I know, right? Hey, we love you, Brandy.
Listen, Brandy, if you're watching,
Nick and Bone.
If you're watching, girl, we will take that promo. So how are you doing this week? Before we bring on Jamillah,
really good. I've been feeling, I think it was last week or the week before, I hit a wall with this COVID mess and white supremacy, hit a wall.
Hey.
And I just felt kind of run down, depressed, very nihilistic, everything sucked. And then all of a sudden, through the help of my Black business coach, who's specifically helping women of color decolonize their businesses, she helped me realize where I was losing a lot of energy trying to show up in an acceptable form for different audiences.
Mm.
And I didn't even know I was still doing it because I'm all about liberation, as
Right.
evidenced by the title of my podcast. And once I started consolidating everything, she said, I want you to look at everything in your business where you are compartmentalizing and see what happens. And what's happened is a weight has been lifting and doors have been opening. And it's only been like 7 days, maybe 8 days. Literally, I'm getting, I feel like downloads from the universe. Like I'm being myself and being rewarded for being myself. I told a friend earlier today in response to even more good news that I have a strong feeling that God is gay and she's in love with me. That's how I'm feeling today. God is gay and she's in love with me. Things are good. Now, things could change tomorrow, but I am really trying to fully experience this moment of just, it's like bliss. I fully came out of the closet. I was out to so many people, but I never really had a conversation with immediate family about being out. And it was uncomfortable. And then I realized that everyone that I thought didn't know just didn't want to talk about it. So I consider them on, everybody's informed, right?
Mhm.
And the world did not implode and everything is fine. And another weight has lifted. Like, how old are you going to wait until you're fully going to be yourself?
Mm.
How long are you going to wait for permission? What are you willing to give up at the expense of your purpose? Because how can you live your purpose if you aren't willing to just fully embody who you naturally are? You know?
Ooh.
And so I'm just like, I'm feeling loved by the universe today. At the risk of sounding extremely cheesy, disgustingly cheesy. That's how I'm feeling.
I love it. Didn't I tell y'all are not ready? Listen. Speaking of things that I love in the universe, this is my friend Jamillah. You all know and love her. She's been on the show. She's a Hot Taste contributor. She's an arts curator. She's an arts programmer. She told me to stop calling her an archivist, so I'm going to stop. Here she is. Love of my life, Jamillah Hinson.
Hi.
Hello. How are
That
you?
archivist tidbit. I'm like, I'm not licensed. I mean, I know how to do some things, but I'm not licensed. So let me just pull that out of the bio.
Jamillah,
But I'm
how
so
are
happy
you?
to be here tonight.
How are you doing this week?
I'm being a person. I think.
That's good. That's good.
I mean, honestly, that's all you can really do. Because let's say Wednesday. Yeah, I'm just trying to really enjoy the fall and just sink into myself, which I think I'll talk about more when we get further into the episode. So yeah, I'm just very happily content right now where I am. Yeah.
That's good. We like happily content.
And you look well lit. You're glowing a little bit. You must have kept playing with the lighting situation.
The rigmarole. Don't get this right.
Listen,
Looks like I live in a basement. I'm on the third floor of a building. Looks like I live in a basement.
listen, I always tell people that it's full service on every side. Like, we have a team in everyone's house here at the Come Up. You don't know about it, but our budget is expansive.
I believe it.
Right. Without the brand promo.
Jamillah, before we have too much, this is kind of a connection too. You and I are both participating in AfroCon this weekend, which is super exciting. And you're actually on a panel called Finding Space in the Future. And so, I think that this is a conversation that is always happening. And I think it's happening more as we figure out, like, what accurate space, that's the word I'm using now, accurate space. Because I think that there are spaces that exist. AfroCon is a space that exists. I think that there are institutions that exist for Black people, but like it's that level of the accuracy of like how do we make it for all Black people, because a lot of those spaces are
absolutely
are
problematic,
yeah,
exclusionary, full of respectability politics, transphobic, homophobic, misogynistic, all the things.
Everything, ableist, every single thing that could be.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there it is. No, I mean, I'll start with Jamillah. You know, you as a curator, that's something that your work like strives to do in a physical space, is to create a space that is capturing this Black or brown, and most times queer artists like vision artistically in a room. So how do you think that work can translate to the world?
World. I think at least in a once again, I'm going to be like, if I only know visual arts, I don't know theater, but in a visual arts capacity, how to give that autonomy and that freedom and that just that comfortable, accurate space, I would say, bring it out into the world. Like you have to, in the art world, there has to be a reckoning of putting the art world back into the hands of the artist. There is no way that a collector, director of exhibitions, even a curator or programmer is going to be able to fully give the space that's needed, I believe, until the art world pulls back from its whiteness, its heteronormativity, ableism, honestly, unless it's like performative, I'm going to say. And you just they have to let go, and they don't want to let go. And until like these big institutions can let go, people are going to keep on flocking to, these tiny galleries in Pilsen or this little, or public space one in Iowa City, because like, where else am I going to go to be able to feel like I am in control? And also if I'm not in control, I feel comfortable with what is happening, Yeah.
I love it. I mean, I just think that whenever I talk to people about it, it's like, that sounds simple. What
doesn't it all?
Why is it so hard? Like, I've been like, why Dalia, fix it. Like,
it's insane. It's so, I have been struggling a lot lately with trying to give people space to be stuck, because it doesn't have to be hard. And it doesn't have to be complicated. But we imagine barriers and they become real. So people keep trying to find all these complicated ways to solve problems that have all these steps and involve fundraising and all this work, when what they need to do is internal work. Release your white supremacy, release your hetero supremacy, release your ableism, and work on all of your unconscious bias. That's hard work, but it doesn't require a plan or any funding. It requires you to be self-aware and interested in becoming a better version of yourself, but understanding that you're not losing anything. Space, power, access, it's not a pie. It's not limited. You are not losing anything if you make sure that a person with disabilities has equal access to dignity and joy in the environment that you're living in together. You're not losing anything. Like, when have you ever seen a ramp for a wheelchair and been like, that's effing up my day? Like, it's interfering with the stairs. No, it's not interfering with anything. It's making someone else's life easier, the way your life is easy because you walk, and all the world is set up for people who walk. It's a mental block, but that's one of the hardest things. Even when somebody tells you they don't like something about your attitude, it's like insurmountable. Telling somebody, stop doing that, stop feeling that way. You can't do it on a dime. And then a lot of times you don't need to. People are being like toxically positive, which is a whole nother thing. But how hard it is to control yourself sometimes. That's really a skill we have to build. Most of us have not been taught to be introspective or to control our thoughts at all. We just let them happen.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, because you can also control that idea that everything is an obstacle. Like whenever I'm talking to someone, especially right now in the creation process in theater, like I need artists to stop. I need specifically like theater artists to stop acting unimaginative and just be cool with where we are right now. Like I get it. It was rough, but like the world shut down on March 12th. We got to move forward. Okay. It's winter. Okay. So I'm talking to you and I'm like, I keep hearing you talk about barriers and obstacles and what we can't do and what's not possible and why it's difficult. And I'm like, we could be seeing this as opportunity. We could see this as, hey, now we have a show that can go into everyone's house. Hey, now we have a space where there are artists that we probably couldn't connect to, and now we can bring them in and have a conversation with them and see like what's happening in your side of the world. I just think that there's so much, in creating a smaller space like for Black, brown, and queer folks. I think that it actually looks at like looking at how much we have of a space already. Like how much headway has been taken, how many steps have been taken, and this moment has given a lot of folks time to like sit and be like, I think that's what I've done is like figure out like what's my version of creating that space, and then how do I use that space to connect everyone else? Like how do I use this space to make a space of my own that then just happens to grow into something that everyone can use? You know what I mean? How do we turn obstacles into opportunities? Huh? That's the sermon.
But really sounds like you must have some natural disposition for that. So you tell us, because it sounds like you see
Right, Nick is like a
opportunities
fountain
where
of
you
just enthusiasm,
yeah,
positivity.
you're over here being all famous and stuff. I keep seeing you doing all the things on IG.
Listen, you know, I was telling this to somebody the other day is I think that what you have to do, and this is something that I say to a lot of nonprofit leaders. They never listen to me because for some reason, if you're not white, and you're not above the age of like 50, no one is going to listen to what you have to say about anything in a nonprofit leadership conversation, right? And so I'll say things like, I create out of necessity. So like this show was born out of me not being able to connect with people and wanting to talk to artists and see what they were doing next. Boom, got a show, and then somebody made a graphic, and I was like, okay, well now I have to be serious, and so that was a necessity. It's like the hot takes thing. I got the radio gig, and I was like, how do I keep it relevant? Oh, I can talk about news. Oh, who needs to be talking about news? Black, brown, and queer people. Awesome, hot takes. Like it's for me, it's like all about like what, and even like all the opportunities I'm taking. Like right now, I feel like I'm back in the beginning of my acting career in a lot of ways, because I don't do unpaid work, but I am doing like some work that's not paying me as much as I should be paid in this specific realm, because I'm trying to, how do I market myself as whatever this is, and so. That's out of necessity that I'm like, let me MC AfroCon, let me edit this radio show every week. Let me, yeah. And so that's just kind of, I think that, and you can do that in your own life. You can do that organizationally. You can do that institutionally. Like what do we need in this moment? And then just feeling that need with the thing.
Well, I can see other people still feeling overwhelmed by that, seeing that there's a necessity that would paralyze some people. But what I hear you saying is that you are a communal person and you are already connected to people, and all you're doing is filling the needs of the people around you, which is literally the only way to be successful in business, is to listen to what people want and give it to them. But the difference is you're actually listening. So maybe it's partially being an effective communicator, or maybe it's being sincerely interested in other people. But I do find that Black people in general, and a lot of people of color, very communal. Everything happens in community. But one of the sad things that being colonized did to a lot of us is it separated us from ourselves and from each other. So we have all these internalized colonial values and white supremacist values that get us stuck on things like colorism and respectability politics. And people get really weird if they feel like somebody's too ratchet, and there's just a lot of division. But then if you can find community with other people, it's pretty easy to survive. It's the people who are trying to make it alone or with this tiny immediate family unit that are struggling the most. Like, make some friends, you guys, but sincerely. And like, don't wait until you need something to make a friend. And you don't have to be friends with people that you don't like. You don't ever know what someone's going to bring in your life. So don't make friends with people that you think can help you just because you think they can help you. Literally just make friends. That's what real networking is. But the way it's usually framed from this like really icky, skeezy, predatory, capitalistic angle is try and see who you can use and like shoot sunshine up their butt until they give you something,
For sure.
It doesn't. It's a lot of work to do it, and who falls for that? When somebody's just trying to see what they can get out of you, and it's super gross. That's my take on it.
I kind of jumping off of that. We were talking about like finding community in like large groups and spaces. I during this time in the pandemic, so I lived by myself. So until I think I was working at the Art Institute, and I think it might have closed maybe March 20th or so. And until May, when I went to see Nick, that was the first time I saw anyone in person that I knew. So I was very excited. But like, I also kind of, while I was by myself, I kind of started to build community within myself. I don't know a more articulate way to say that, but it felt like you just have to, because I know a lot of people in Chicago. I know a lot of people outside of Chicago. There are people that I can reach out to that I'm close with and things like that. But I felt like I needed to kind of reevaluate who I am when I'm by myself consistently and constantly, to be able to go back into my communities and my friend groups and things like that, and make sure that those bonds are still really strong so that we have each other in this time. It's just like a way of building your own self in order to build a stronger community with outside of yourself. And that's what I've been trying to really work on a lot through this whole pandemic, because I was planning in 2019, I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I was going to take 2020 off. Like, I'll do some things here and there. And then, 2020 came through like a raging bull.
So is this your fault? I said, like, because you're taking time off now, right?
Long, apparently. Oh dang, I just lost my train of thought. But like, no, but yeah, I was exhausted. So I was coming into 2020 of like trying to refigure out myself and how I interact with myself and things like that. Because like like most people in the arts, you're going out to things a couple nights a week, you're seeing all these people, you're expelling all of this energy out into your community, which is needed and necessary and really beautiful. But I think Black people in particular, especially Black women, need to also kind of feed the community of themselves, of their person, if that makes sense. And I think that's just like a really, like, it's like a balance, like what you were saying, and like also community within yourself. I think it's like a really important balance to be settled with, that will allow you to settle within yourself.
Yeah. Ooh, question.
That makes a lot of sense.
Jamillah, what does that work look like? Like, what does it look like to build community within myself?
I think it's different for everyone. For me, it's been a lot of plant maintenance. I have a lot of plants now. I have a lot of plants going in, but now I'm like, okay, let me get some more all of a sudden. So it's just like, when I tend to my plants, it's like probably maybe an hour of looking after something that is so important to me. But that doesn't, well, I guess it does feel like an extension of myself, like me caring for these living things.
Because they need you. I've killed a few plants.
Oh my goodness.
I'm a plant killer.
Right. That sounds so wonderful though. How did you realize that was your thing?
I don't think I did it consciously. I think a lot of like my personal artistic practice is getting more and more into just the Black body, the Black consciousness within nature, especially in the Americas, because there's so much both like trauma and joy just sunk into the land for Black people. And so I don't think it was a conscious decision to be like, I'm going to tend to plants now. I've always really enjoyed them. You know, that millennial joke of like, we don't have kids, we have plants and things like that. And so it just felt really natural. I don't know if that was because, you know, I was that kid making mud pies and stuff like that in the backyard. So I don't know if it's just me coming back to myself, a part of myself that I knew in my childhood. I'm not sure what it was, honestly. I really couldn't answer it, but it's settled me in a way that makes me really happy and like I wasn't expecting.
Oh, that is beautiful. Ooh, I love that.
Listen, I have a plant story. So my friend Ephraim, shout out Ephraim. Yeah, we went to college with Ephraim. And so they had stolen this plant from their second floor dorm. I feel like I can say this publicly now because we are long gone from college. So they stole this plant from their dorm. And he was keeping it over the summer. And like Ephraim is from Oregon, so he's plants. Like he's like with it. I'm not. And he was like, hey, could you watch this plant over the summer? And I told him, you don't want me to watch that plant. Like, I'm telling you now, I'm a plant killer. And he was like, no. He was like, it's a really easy plant. You just
That's what they always say. That's what the plant people always say. You can't kill this.
But there are
you
really
sure?
easy plants though.
Listen, this was not one of them because I came home one day and I was like, who left a dead plant on our porch?
You didn't even recognize it?
I forgot about it till it died. Listen, That's what I'm saying. I'm not the one. I'm not the one. Like, it was dead, and I was like, oh, you. Not good. Like, but listen, that's better than America does for Black people. Huh? Message.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Please start shouting message. Who does that remind me of?
That was my exit. I was like, that's...
Always.
So many times, like, there are several things you said that brought up a specific song for me, Nick. I don't know if it's you and because you're a musical person or what, but earlier when you were talking about creativity and doing things out of necessity, do you remember that Arrested Development song called Africa's Inside of Me? This is from a million years ago.
Okay.
Wait, what?
We need to put that in the show notes. It was an Arrested Development song. You remember them? They sang Mr. Wendell and they sang whatever was the one that said something about Oklahoma. I don't know.
I feel like I know what you're talking about. I don't know any of the names of their songs.
Seriously, that was good stuff. Remember when everybody was woke in the 90s? So it was one of those. It was like a Spike Lee vibe type of wake up type of thing, you know?
Yeah.
You have to listen to it, but because it perfectly encompasses what you're saying, that people of the diaspora are naturally resourceful. And maybe it isn't that this is how we are because of something genetic, but this is the human response to oppression and through not being given adequate access to resources, is that it opens up a part of you that is creative and understands that you can use, there are no rules. You can use whatever you want, however you want. Who said a stick and a rag couldn't be a mop? It can. I've seen people do that. Who said that a mason jar isn't a vase? You know, just a lack of resources and the creativity. But I think it's actually very protective for your mental health to keep seeing solutions and keep seeing options where other people don't see any because they don't have to see any.
Wow.
Listen, right? That just like that took me back. Because I mean, I think about I took one of my favorite classes of all time was aesthetics. I was a philosophy minor, and aesthetics is the philosophy of art. How brilliant! It was incredible. But like the first question of the class was like, what is art? And one of the theories that I'll never forget is the institutional theory, which is the thing that's like, I'm calling this art, therefore it is art. I made this thing and it is art. Bam, instituted. So like this idea that I can be like, I'm, because I said it is. And like, that's my whole training as a theater artist. Like in creative drama, like we have this game that I tried, Jamillah, I'm sure I've tried to make you play this game, where I take an item and I'm like, this is not a stapler, it's Miss Pac-Man, whap, 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 whap. And then I would pass it around the circle and everyone, and I play this at lunch. I've played this with people in before times when you could go to dinner together. I've played this at parties, and that is just, but that sort of imagination, like, we lose that. Like kids do, like Jamillah, you were saying, like maybe I'm just going back to my roots of like playing in the dirt because that's what I did as a kid. Like, and I feel like we lose this quality of play when we get older, and it stifles us, and it cuts us off from everything that we already know about existing and how to exist and just be in the world.
Yes.
Isn't it crazy how much you think you're making progress, but you're just being socialized and pulled farther and farther away from who you were born to be? And you work through all your conditioning and you find yourself doing stuff that you knew you wanted to do when you were 3 and people told you not to. Either it was rude or it was dumb or it was a waste of time, or girls shouldn't be getting dirty outside in the dirt, you know? It's just insane how much I don't have or want any children, but I have tremendous respect for kids in a way that I know a lot of older people don't, when they're constantly talking down to them and saying, oh, when you get older, you'll understand. There's so much they understand right now that they're being taught to forget. It's really disrespectful the way people talk to toddlers. I mean, they're annoying, but still, like, give them some respect. It's just a young person.
Part. Yeah, I agree. I have a tendency to be able to work with teens on and off sometimes, and as terrifying as they are, it's because they're at this moment where like so they're like 16, 17, 18, so they've been, that socialization is there, but that angst is also there, you know, and they want to break it so bad, they don't know how to, but they don't, and they also don't know how brilliant they are because we constantly tell them, you're too young to understand this. The kids are insightful enough, whatever it is. And it's like, I don't think, like, I agree. It's like the way people under 18 are treated in an intellectual capacity is disgusting. I was talking to my sister, kind of a tangent. I was talking to my sister about, like, I don't see pogo sticks anymore. We used to play with pogo sticks. I mean, I used to break my bones with those things. We used to play with them. And I was like, I feel like the 90s were like the last remnants of people, I feel like parents not caring what their kids were doing. Because I'm like, pogo sticks are dangerous. I think there's that shift of, like, you know, stranger danger in the 80s or whatever. So people see kids as like, they try to respect them physically, but they're not respecting them mentally, artistically, creativity. You know what I'm trying to say. And like, what would spaces even beyond the arts look like if we allow people from, 1 to 18 to really flourish within themselves before we try to break them down and make them into like respectable Black people or like queer people who aren't too loud and too garish or whatever. Like what would the world look like if we allowed humans to be human?
And it's hard, especially in a Black household, right? Because our parents are coming from the space of like, I need to protect your little ass from the rest of this world.
Yeah, I want you to survive. I don't want you to be murdered for being a child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is, I just really, as we're in this conversation of racial reckoning, as we always are in this conversation of racial reckoning, like the piece that I really want white folks to understand is that like that training of thought is that happens from the beginning. From the inception of Black life within the womb, the thought of the safety
How
of
will
your
I keep
child
you
comes.
alive?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the first thing, you know.
And it has to be, because even the mortality rates for pregnant Black mothers, it
Hmm.
doesn't matter how much money
Terrifying.
she makes. It doesn't matter if she's married. It doesn't matter where she lives. She's more likely to die in the process of giving life to another Black person. And
Or
that's
after,
all.
Or
That's
after.
true.
Yeah.
because they also,
Right.
like Black women will say to a doctor, "Yo, something's wrong," and they're like, "Oh, you're fine," and then she dies on the
Yeah.
table, and I'm like, not only do we have to be concerned about the life like that we're about to give, we have to be concerned about our own life, because you don't value it, you don't listen to me, you don't take anything I say seriously, and my pain does not matter to you, whether be it emotional, mental, or physical.
What
Mm-hmm.
kills me is all the people that will hear that and say, "Oh, not me. I love you, Nick. I would never do that to you. I don't do that to you." But even in saying that, you're doing it again.
Yeah.
Mm.
Why don't you
Yep.
just believe me? And if you find that you're having trouble believing me, Google ain't broken. Okay?
Yeah. Can you,
Libraries are still open.
for the people in the back that just might be a little confused, what do you mean by you're doing it again? What about that action is like a repeat of the offense?
You're not listening to us. When people of color, when Black people say there's a problem, nobody listens. You dismiss it, you make it smaller, you try and say we are being hypersensitive. We decided to take it that way. We misunderstood. Oh, we need to understand that that person was raised in a different time. Oh, well, what if the different treatment that you got has more to do with something else about you that's marginalized that white people also have? Maybe they treated you this way because you're queer. Maybe they treated you this way because you're fat. Maybe they treated you this way because you don't make 250 plus $1,000 a year. I have been living this experience so much longer than you even knew race was still relevant in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Because not so long ago, while SNL, while major mainstream TV shows in this country were still doing blackface, I was being told at least once a week that we were living in a post racial society. That I'm colorblind. I don't even think about race, I don't even see it. I've never been that way, and my parents have never been that way. Well, that's so strange that everybody's telling me that they don't know any racists. And yet, there's still Klan rallies in my city. And yet, there's still all these forms of like honor and all these homages to the Confederacy. And nobody sees that that's a problem. And nobody sees that most of these monuments went up in response to major civil rights movements. When
Yeah.
someone else Black who wasn't being listened to said, "Hey, could I have equal protection under the law? Oh, could I be an equal citizen? I mean, the country was built on my back and the back of my ancestors. Like, could I have some crumbs over here?" And the response is, "No, know your place. Oh, reminder, we let you guys be free." The funniest thing to me is people not understanding that freedom was only a matter of time. And the way our history here is so distorted, most of us don't know how many uprisings there were. And frequently, these
Yeah.
uprisings, it wasn't just Black people. So many of the Jim Crow laws, so many of the laws around slavery were meant to keep the working class divided so that if there was a slave rebellion, the slaves would be on their own.
Mm.
It's just fascinating to me how distorted people's understanding of our power as a people is, and our numbers, and our ability to discern whether or not somebody's racist as AF. Okay, I like don't want to fill your podcast with profanity, but this is an ongoing issue with dietitians. They're always saying they want for the field to be more diverse. Less than 2% of dietitians are Black. As you
Wow.
know, that is not reflective of our population in this country. But
Yeah.
what I hear people getting stuck on is, oh, it's that there's financial barriers. Well, in that statement is the assumption that all Black folks are on the struggle bus. False. The reason why I would never recommend that another Black person go into this field is because I've never experienced so many microaggressions in such a small period of time as I did going through the core of the program and doing the internship. Like literally at one of the jobs that was supposed to be like a respected hospital, and it is a well respected hospital, and I'm guessing the most problematic department is the one that I was shadowing in. They were making jokes about Mexican people. They were saying they didn't understand why they had to put a Black lady on one of their pamphlets, and they said that they did enough because they'd done something in February, and that all this inclusion stuff was getting out of control. And they had one Black employee who was in a position subordinate to them, and they thought they weren't racist because they like her and are willing to eat the cake that she brings them. People don't want to be in the field because it's racist AF, okay? And it doesn't pay well enough to endure that kind of abuse. It isn't the financial barrier. But when you try and present, hey, the issue is your love of white supremacy, nobody wants to work on that. Everybody
Right.
wants to have more meetings or discussions or create more PowerPoints about how to be culturally competent / memorize stereotypes. That's literally what it is.
Oh my God, can you just replace dietitian with theater? Or I'm sure Jamilah's
Oh
like
no, it's
with visual
same.
art. Yes,
Oh
like
boy.
that's
Over this side.
because that's the thing is, and this is what I keep trying to get into the heads of these institutions is that like every institution in this country is rooted and sat on top of white supremacy. That's how it was built. And so when you look at your institution, from the way that your institution gets its money to the way that you have structured it to the top down thing, like it's all built in supremacist background. And the idea that information needs to stay siloed until there's enough information for everyone to know, like these concepts, the idea that like they like that you just need to learn more to get into the space, um that's supremacist. That's like,
Oh my
and the
God.
fact, and you're also not, where do we provide that education then? So if there's a company, there's a company that I know of in Omaha that, you know, is like everyone needs to expects everyone to be at a certain level of their audition, right? But if you're not providing any resources to people that have never done theater before at your community institution to be better, where are we supposed to get this education? What you've now done is you've created a separate box of individuals that you can go to because you know that they're good enough to be on stage. So instead of offering guidance, instead of offering support, you don't offer a hand at all. You just say, sorry about it. And that's supremacy. Like, and that's, and you can't mask that as, oh, we just didn't know. You gonna tell me you didn't know Black people
Right.
existed? That's a lie. That's like,
And then to keep on the barriers, because then if there wasn't all that hostility and all the microaggressions, then the Black people who do happen to have access to the networks and the resources to have that additional training, they do not stay long enough to serve as mentors to other people of color. And
Yeah.
that's what the big piece I think people are missing. It's like, we don't need your charity. And that whole white savior thing is also racist. You know, like again, for the people in the back, like that isn't good. That is part of the problem. Like the goal of this major civil rights movement is not to teach white people to be nicer. And it seems like that's what a lot of people seem to think it is. Like this is a self-improvement project for white folks. That really is the vibe I'm getting. That's the
not a
messages I'm getting.
self-improvement project. They're just like sitting there. Well, but that's what they're reading their books. I'm like, where are the book reports? Like, I'm like, y'all have read a lot, but like,
Yeah,
where are
did
the
you do anything? And the last time that someone told you you did something problematic, did you listen?
and we
That
can't
seems to be
just
way too much work for a lot of people, though. They don't want to put that work in. They want to get once again be very performative across spheres, dietitian, theater artist, whatever it is. It's such a like good feeling for them to feel to be performative, and their good feeling about what they did for that day is it overshadows the terror that they probably inflicted on Black, brown, queer people with their microaggressions, with their false allyship with their toxic positivity, so many things that felt like they felt good for that one thing, so it doesn't matter, and it's just exhausting.
Well, and that's how I feel about. Oh, we could talk forever. This is gonna have to be. We're just chatting. I love y'all. But EDI trainings, I'm very skeptical of them because I feel like what happens is you put a bunch of white folks in a room. There's typically a black person in front of them that's like, let's talk about EDI. And then they leave and they're like, wow, I learned so much about being a better white person today. And I am good. I'm good. And then you're like, well, here's a problem. And they're like, well, I don't know if you know, but I took some EDI training. So I don't have any of those issues that you're referring to.
I feel like I literally have had that conversation with someone who, I tried to explain that they were not understanding how diverse the diaspora is and that this is a very common thing in the United States. People imagine we're part of one cultural group, which could not be farther from the truth. Even, I won't even say because I don't want to, I don't want to deter anybody from doing the right thing when they go to vote. So we'll talk about this after this is over. But somebody said that Black people were not diverse, like Hispanics. We won't say who. And I don't understand why people continue to believe that when we are always telling them how we are individuals, but nobody listens to us. So I was telling somebody that it was so dumb that they had grouped all people with Black skin into one group in a bit of research they were doing. And they said something to the effect of they took a class about race. I'm like, okay, I got it. And I've been Black since the freaking day I was born. And my mom's from another country. Her parents are from different countries. Hello, I think I know that there's diversity in the diaspora and our food ways are very distinct. And you're making all these assumptions based on us being homogenous, and that's false. And I'm telling you, you're wrong. I'm not debating. I'm not suggesting. I suggest you go out and find out how I'm right. Again, Google ain't broken.
That part.
Baby, I'm telling you. Yeah.
I'm saying, based on my actual experience, there's a play called Smart People. I think you would both love it. It's about 4 smart people that are connected to Harvard. It's a Black man who is getting his doctorate. He's going to be a doctor. There's a Black woman who just graduated with her master's in theater. There is an Asian woman who is a psychiatrist and a professor at Harvard. And then there's a white man who is a professor at Harvard. And the purpose of his whole study is to prove that white people are racist. So throughout, like genetically, so throughout all of the show, he's kind of just like telling these people of color, like his opinions on race and why he's correct because he studies race. And it's just fascinating because we all know those people. Like each of us knows a person that has studied race that is now like, Jamillah, I'm not sure you're correct on that one because from my research, this is what I found. And it's like, my research has to deal with my actual body and existence.
And why don't we look at the hours that we've put into this experience? Let's just look at the hours alone.
Unpaid hours. You got paid. You got paid to research about me.
You have a doctorate. I don't care if you went back for even more study. Did you do it for 30 years? Did you experience it every day? Every hour that you are awake? Then no, boo-boo, there's no way that you know more about this than I do. You may know some things I don't know, but you will never know more than me because you will never be able to put in the time. I do this all day. On what planet would you know more about
every day? Yes.
I'm really confused right now. I'm like, the caucasity of it all.
The caucasity of it all. Jamillah, any parting words for the people?
Jeez. Oh no, I feel like I'm on the spot now.
You don't have to have parting words. I'm just going to kick you out now. So I just wanted to make sure you got your chance.
No, it was great though. This has been great. That's my parting word.
I knew that this would be amazing. Thank you, Jamillah, for coming on and doing this. And
thank you both.
We'll see you this week.
Yes, it's been a delight.
We'll see you at AFRICON, Jamillah.
Yes, I'm excited.
Bye.
Buy tickets.
Woo! We did it.
I love it.
Wasn't
I love
that
it.
fun?
And I'm so excited that you guys are doing something specifically for blurs. Like, exciting.
Yes, so get your tickets, people. Dalia, you get your ticket too.
Yes.
And it's going to be amazing. Before we go, I got to shout out my sponsors. Hey, sponsors. Thank you. We appreciate you. We like your dollars and your faces. Okay. Wait, hold on. Wait, I'm going to do that again. You know what? Because there's always at least one mistake on the show. Okay. Well, Dalia, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Who's coming tomorrow?
Tomorrow we have Ricardo Corcoran on the show. He is a local Atlanta artist and my best friend. It's going to be awesome.
Yay! So keep it here, folks. Come back. Same time, same channel, and you'll see me, Dalia, and Ricardo. Body, Liberation
You
Takeover.
can't see me dancing. Oh, I'm frozen.